And alrighty, we should be good to go. Happy Wednesday, happy end of September, happy fall. Not so happy 2020, but well, it's all about perspective, right? Welcome to the September Kansas City virtual user group meeting. I am Dale Ziegler. By day, I am a senior business analyst with Seven Summits, consulting company based in Milwaukee, covering the nation. And by 11 to 1 once a month, I'm one of your user group co-leaders. And along with me is Jeff. Jeff, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, hello, hello. I am Jeff Berger. I am the Salesforce administrator, plus all the other hats I wear that I don't get in my title at Academy Bank, a regional bank here based in Kansas City. And like Dale said, about that exact amount of time for 2 hours a month, I am your co-leader.
By part of the day. Very good, very good. We also want to call out here, you may have seen some changes in the success community and on the registration site and all that kind of stuff. We have been rebranded back to the user group. There was a growing contingency of us user group leaders who didn't love our name being the admins group because some of you are devs, some of you are marketers, some of you are nonprofit, some of you are sales, some of you are just kind of everywhere in between. We've always been the all-encompassing come as you are safe place group, and so we were able, and several other groups around the country and around the world actually were able to get the admin title stripped off and go back to user group, which then came with yet another email address and yet another piece of identification and all that stuff, blah 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 blah. So if you need to get Jeff and or I, you can always email us at this, but this is our new address. And I tried to update all the references in the deck and in the success groups and all the other ambiguously named groups that we have at our disposal because, well, Salesforce likes to multi-use terms. Again, we are recording this, so if you're not permitted, if you're not comfortable, whatever, sorry, please drop off. But like I said, I'm going to try and have this posted by this evening, if not by end of the business day. Just depends on how all of this on my whiteboard goes when we get off the meeting this afternoon. Zoom etiquette, we all know this. If you're not talking, please mute yourself. But when the time comes and it's an open dialogue, everybody's welcome to participate. We just ask, especially during the presentation, just mute yourself. We do have a Slack channel. I say this every month. Hopefully we can get more traffic on there, and maybe that's kind of incumbent on me and Jeff to throw out some, hey, let's talk about this or whatever. But we do have a Slack channel, and if you're interested in joining, just send us an email to our new group email. We'll get you added as quickly as possible. Just another means to communicate, ask questions in real time versus perhaps waiting for a group like this or whatever. We all know Slack. We all love Slack. So we have a channel on Slack.
And to your point, Dale, don't be shy on Slack either. You know, every month, Dale makes this pitch for Slack, and we always get people emailing us after the meeting to say, hey, you know, add me to the channel, add me to the channel. And we do, and then, you know, the next meeting comes and we've had like one conversation on Slack. So don't be shy. It's there for everybody to jump in and ask questions or start up a topic. So I just want to encourage folks to be vocal on Slack.
Absolutely. Oh, I didn't need to update this. So it's not just us here in the user group space, formerly administrators, formerly user group. You know, life's just full circle. Here in Kansas City, there is also a dev group. We have a WIC group, nonprofit marketers, which I believe reconsolidated Marketing Cloud and part back into one group. But it's more than just us for the more technically specific, for the more niche groups. And you can get information about all the groups if you're new to Kansas City, if you're new to the Salesforce ecosystem, especially with us being virtual. We definitely have attendees from outside the area, outside the Midwest. We may even have an international attendee on the call as well. Everybody's welcome. But if you are interested in joining other Kansas City groups, this is a quick reference to get more information. In terms of upcoming events with the local groups, so we just published the site for our next meeting in 2 weeks. We went 2 months without a meeting, so yeah, let's put 2 meetings in 2 weeks. Featuring Lindsay Paulson, and Speak It will be presenting as well as sponsoring. And then we've lined up the date for Mr. Malone and Eric Dreschfield. If you're familiar with the Kevin Bacon of Salesforce, that is Eric Dreschfield. They will be presenting on November 19th. Just need to get some final items ironed out, and we'll put the registration site out on that as soon as we can. I'm already lining up December too. We're kind of on a roll. This is a weird feeling, but we're on a roll. We'll have December out there as soon as we know more logistics about that. David Tony, hint, hint, it's one of your coworkers at YRC. And then if anybody is interested in presenting, the speaker interest form, we'll get that updated to have some future months on it. I think I still only have it through December, but if you have a topic that you're passionate about, or that you're learning, if it's your company's use case, if it's whatever, if it's just life best practices within Salesforce, anything is fair game. Highly, highly, highly encourage you to fill out the speaker interest form. We will be sharing the deck after the meetings with all the links and all of that, so you can submit your interest there, and we would love to have you. Do we have any leaders of the other groups on the call that would like to give any updates, upcoming meetings, any thoughts, any whatever's going on?
Hey Dale, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian.
We are looking at, for the dev group, we're looking at trying to put some things together for Lightning Web Components. That one will probably be sometime in January. We're trying to time out this schedule for what to do with that. But I'll see if I can post some information about that for later. But just wanted to let everybody know that we're looking at putting something together for that. So if there are people who are interested in learning a little bit of LWC, then we can put that up on the schedule.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Any of the other groups? Do we have any group leaders from outside of Kansas City on the call? Don't be shy. All right. Well, good deal. Salesforce employees, please don't be shy. Do we have any Salesforce employees on the call that want to introduce themselves?
I have to give Dale credit. Y'all don't see this, but every month Dale gets his big old list of Salesforce employees together and writes up an impassioned plea to them to join our call. And he's always working to get that list up to date. So hopefully one of these times we will get a Salesforce employee or two on the call, and it'll make all of that hard work worth it.
Thank you. And it's just short of please. But I would challenge all of you, if you do have fairly regular contact with your Salesforce sales rep or the SEs or anyone, challenge them to, if they know about our group. And if they don't, tell them about it. Pass me their email address and I'll put them on the list to start inviting them. But this is supposed to be a relationship between Salesforce and us as the customers, as the consultants, as the highly impassioned nerds, whatever you want to call us. This is supposed to be a big ecosystem for all of us to come together. So that is my challenge to all of you. So community resources and events. So MVP office hours, that's one of my other efforts that I'm part of. Normally we meet on the first and third Friday of the month, but in September we shifted the schedule because of the release readiness webinars. The admin session was at the exact same time as our office hours call. So we pushed back a week, which then coincided with October being a 5 Friday month. So for October, our next call will be on the 9th and then on the 23rd. Those links there are static. They're always up and ready for the next meeting, along with information about what we do with MVP office hours. It's come with your questions, and anybody can ask a question. Anybody can answer a question. You don't have to be an MVP. Myself, Joy Shutters-Helbing from Chicago, and Squire Kirshner from Milwaukee, we're just there to facilitate the call. It's open floor for anyone and everyone to ask, to learn in a safe place. That's the biggest thing I like to stress, is that all of these types of meetings, it's a safe place. So there are no dumb questions. You can be a first timer and you're welcomed with open arms. You're not going to do it wrong. Like, if you need to, please join. We would love to have you. World tours, other Salesforce events, everything's virtual, if not canceled, but you can get all your information there at salesforce.com/events. Webinars, that Trailhead calendar there, it's phenomenal. It has upcoming as well as access to recordings of past webinars. So if you're looking for new content or supplementing new learning, whatever, I highly encourage the webinar site. Community events, again, a lot of those are either going to virtual or being postponed for the year. But for those who are new to the Salesforce ecosystem, Salesforce events are events that Salesforce puts on, and it's all the Salesforce marketing and potentially hands-on training sessions led by Salesforce instructors. Community events are led by people like myself, who we let Salesforce in, but we want it to be about all of you. We want you to be contributing the content. We want you to help shape it. They're all over the country. They're all over the world. But, you know, unfortunately, again, a lot of them got postponed or canceled or moved to virtual. But if you're interested in attending, they are great ways to meet people. They're great ways to learn things. Definitely check out the Trailhead link there. Trailblazer mentorship, I will talk about this every single time, how impactful it is, both for mentors and mentees. If you have been impacted by a mentor in your life and you want to be able to give back in the Salesforce space, sign up to be a mentor. If you are new and are just looking for somebody that you can have a one-on-one working relationship with to learn what your next step should be, from job placement, from career advancement, from specific technical stuff, the Salesforce mentorship program is phenomenal. Please go yesterday. Go check it out yesterday. And then the idea exchange prioritization, I think it shut down last week, but probably within the next month or two, they'll reopen it up again. So always check that link for to help shape what the platform looks like in the future.
Hey, Dale, one thing I wanted to add to this, just in thinking about the Trailhead webinars. I don't know if folks have checked out Trailhead Live yet at all, but yet another incredible resource collection of live webinars, and also then the recordings of those webinars. They have so much content, and whether it's a lot of it's really specific too, which I love. Like, there's a whole session in the next day or two about error handling best practices for LWC, where they're going to spend 60 minutes just talking about error handling, and you're going to have like an actual Salesforce employee who is an LWC expert walking you through that sort of stuff. But they also have a lot of admin or like life coaching kind of things as well. You know, like how do you prep for your certification, or how do you, I'm just looking at stuff here.
How do you work remotely in COVID? I know they've
exactly.
had a lot of
so
that.
Check it out if you haven't already. In addition to the webinars, go to the Trailhead site, and under Learn, go to Trailhead Live, and just so much incredible content. They're doing like 2 sessions a day, I think, at this point. So check it out.
And Jeff, if you have that link up, you want to throw it in the chat?
I'll do it right now. Thanks.
Please and thank you, sir.
Yep.
Good call out. Very good call out. And I added a comment because October's deck is going to be a clone of this and keep
right.
adding to it. So there's a to-do item for me.
Yeah.
True to the core. So going back to some of the idea exchange prioritization, true to the core. If you've never had an opportunity to sit in on it at Dreamforce or any of the virtual events, this is where they get down to the why and the how of core functionality. Why have we developed things? What are we working on? Why haven't we developed certain functionalities? It's a very open and honest conversation, and it's a great place to challenge. I mean, I know there is a lot of frustration out there about why certain ideas haven't been implemented, and I have refrained from getting in Twitter fights with a lot of people as to why things have not been implemented. But this is a great place for you to ask those questions. Hey, I would love it if the Formula Engine finally got upgraded. When are we looking at? And either Parker or Brett or Sarah or a product manager is going to say, here's when, but because we have to do A, B, and C, those kinds of things. So the next one is on, they're calling it multiple product areas. Last week, I think, was process automation, or maybe that's in a few weeks. I don't know. They're doing more and more of the true to the core lives, especially since Dreamforce won't be happening this year, or at least imagined as we normally see it to be reimagined, maybe not, I don't know, whatever, I get confused. But true to the core live, they're doing these more and more often. Next one is Tuesday, October 27th. So highly encourage registering for that. The links are baked in here. And again, we'll be sharing the deck later this afternoon so that you can get to these links if you haven't already signed up.
Are you surprised, Dale, that, I mean, it's September 30th. I kind of expected to have heard something about Dreamforce this year. We know it's virtual or going to be reimagined. Have you heard anything that you are able to share with the group?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
Period. It's not a what I can and can't share. I haven't heard anything. It's go to dreamforce.com and maybe I know they've put FAQs on dreamforce.com.
Right. And I've seen that, but I haven't seen anything beyond that. And considering it's, October tomorrow,
right.
I wonder if they're going to try to make it happen still this year or not. Last I heard was they were reimagining it, but
I think they're reimagining it into a 2021 event.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Okay, just wanted to check. Thanks.
All right, my favorite time, celebrations. First of all, who are our first-time attendees?
Me.
Congratulations, welcome. This is a safe place. Happy to have you. Who else?
This is my first time. Well.
Philip, hello, sir.
Hello.
Who else was that?
Cindy Brom from Quest Diagnostics. This is my first time.
Cindy, welcome. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Michelle Whitaker, first time attendee.
Hello, Michelle.
Hi.
Ruth is happy. All right. Well, welcome. Like I said, this is a safe place. Don't feel like you're a first timer, or no, that made sense in my head. Everybody is welcome, no matter how many times they've been here. There. How about that? Very, very, very happy to have you, and we hope to have you at more. Any new roles or jobs or openings to share?
This is just a question. How have we all weathered the storm? I mean, I know a lot of companies have contracted their teams a little bit, but I don't know about y'all. Where I'm at, I'm busier than ever, and I wish I could add a person. They won't let me yet. But generally speaking, are we seeing growth? Are we seeing contraction? I'm just curious to know what's out there.
Yeah, our company actually had a voluntary severance program. So we had about 300 employees leave, which was actually 60% of the Salesforce team. And
Wow.
there have been layoffs now, but we've got so much work because we're pivoting and trying to sell differently. We do events.
Right.
So now we are trying to do virtual events, part of that whole sales, what Dreamforce is going to do.
Right. Yeah, I've heard similar stories where it's kind of like, you get the same team or maybe even a smaller team, and you're being asked to do more because everything's virtual and they need people to support all of the virtual work that maybe historically had been done on other legacy platforms, person to person.
So at 7 Summits, our bread and butter has always been Community Cloud, Experience Cloud, but where and we've seen a good uptick because a lot of our clients are needing to engage they're needing to do customer communities and employee
Right.
communities because of now the remote workforce, which is then increasing the demand for experts in the community space.
Yeah.
And content managers, and it's definitely opened up a lot of need for those.
Hi.
Yeah, if folks are on the call who are trying to decide an area of expertise, Community Cloud would be a good one. It's always kind of been I always kind of got the impression that it was sort of the redheaded stepchild of the clouds, only because Salesforce's reputation has always been a back office or middle office solution and not really like a front end UX sort of solution. And I think the types of people who own those products historically at organizations like marketing teams didn't know much about Salesforce, didn't see Salesforce as a major player in the marketing space. And given the sort of improvements that Salesforce has made recently with Salesforce CMS and some of the other stuff that's going on with Experience Cloud, and the need for it in, globally, for companies to really invest in that digital community. If you're looking for something to focus on, I would highly recommend Community Cloud.
Absolutely.
Lots of good trails.
And then this is Elizabeth. We do have a job opening at our company. It's for a data analyst. It's not exactly all Salesforce, but a lot of the data would come from Salesforce as well as Great Plains. But just if you know anybody, we're looking for someone who knows some Japanese or knows a little bit or is willing to learn, because we're owned by a Japanese corporation. But I just put that out there. So the company is Sekisui Xenotech, and the job is posted on our website.
If you have a link, Elizabeth, if you want to drop it in the chat or send it to me and Jeff and we can distribute it out, or the success group, whatever, go for it.
Because I have somebody that might be really good for that.
Okay.
And she doesn't know Japanese, but she has worked with a lot of our migration data with Japanese characters, so she is familiar with it.
Okay, great. I'll post a link in the chat.
Awesome.
This is Eric Chambers.
Oh, hey Eric.
Oh,
Hey, Eric.
Hey, with Torrent Consulting. We have a lot of open positions right now. I think we've got 18 open positions for analysts, developers, consultants, and architects. So if you're interested in any of those roles, right now everybody's working remotely, but we do have an office in Westport for whenever things get back to normal.
Awesome. If you got links, share them.
All right, I'll post in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
I was going to make Matt say something. He posted in the chat, but Matt, do you want to say what you want to say in real life on camera?
Okay, it's not pretty. That's
hey,
but
congrats.
Thank you, Des Moines Study Group, Terry and Carla and everybody there. It was great. Helped us prepare. I think a couple other people from the group have passed it as well. So thanks.
Awesome. Hey, for those who don't know about the study groups, do you want to give the elevator pitch?
Well, so Terry did the regular administrator certification, I believe, last year, and then he wanted to hit different topics, and I think some of the people from that group did the second group. We met once a week. People in the group were each responsible for presenting kind of in-depth topic by topic. The group itself is not, all the work you need to do. You need to study and do the other trailhead stuff on your own as well. But it's a way to keep yourself honest and hold yourself accountable to keep yourself going towards that goal. So I thought it was great.
Awesome.
Congratulations. Very, very cool.
Thank you. I won't tell you what score I passed with, but it was barely.
Hey, you passed.
That's a pass.
Yeah, pass is a pass.
I'm glad they don't put the score on the certificate.
On the certificate. That's okay. Anybody else take and pass? Anything?
I did. I actually got my advanced admin certificate. First
Woohoo!
time. First time.
Very nice. Congrats. Any other?
Any take and fails? Because
And,
that's something we
and
want to
this is a
celebrate
safe
too.
place. Again, take and fail. It's a safe place. That's okay. Who is anybody actively studying for what?
I'm going for sales consultant next. Has anybody done that?
Easy. You'll be
It's
fine.
easy. If you got admin and advanced admin and you know how the core stuff works, you got it.
Yeah, I mean, like with all of the sales-based ones, you know, make sure you're sharp on your products and stuff that maybe not everybody uses, but you know, opportunity products, quote products, that sort of stuff. But
Yeah, but it doesn't venture much farther beyond that.
advanced admin, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I would argue advanced admin was more complicated than sales.
I would agree. Community Cloud Consultant this Friday. Okay, Lindsay. So on October 13th, you're gonna let us know how
As she's presenting, she's going to let us know.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Good
Fresh,
luck.
shiny certification.
Do we have any study groups going or that anybody is involved with that they want to share? No problem. Those are good to look for, as Matt just attested to. Study groups are great because, I mean, it's just like when we were all in school. The more collective the information, the better everybody does. So, and then again, we've been saying this all year because of COVID and because of all the testing facilities being shut down. Salesforce has relaxed the second webcam requirement, so it's never been easier to take an exam from home. All you need is the camera on your laptop, or if you have an additional camera or whatever. You don't need to have your space cleared and everything because they're going to be proctoring you, looking at your eyeballs just to make sure that you're, you know, looking at the screen. Otherwise, super easy. So highly recommend. The downside of that is everybody's doing it. So if you're going to take a test online, sign up for it now so that you get anywhere near a time slot that you want. Because they do have active proctors on the other side, so you're working with their schedule. Unless you want to take an exam on a Sunday morning at 3, I go for it. Some people are you know, that's when they thrive. But sign up if you want to do it. Sign up as soon as possible so that you have that time locked in. On the other end of it, if you're thinking, hey, on a whim, I want to take an exam, there are cancellations. You might be able to take an exam today. You might get lucky.
It's not technically an exam, but I was privileged to be a part of the Financial Services Cloud Super Badge sort of beta and testing, which was really cool. And I got to be one of the first to do the badge when it went live. So that was really exciting. So I did that since we've last met, and that was really rewarding. I hadn't been able to be a part of that feedback process. So that was pretty cool. And so I got Financial Services Cloud Specialist under my belt, which is great because we just upgraded earlier this year. So
very nice. Good job. All right, I only have 3 more. Then you don't have to listen to me anymore. It'll be Leah's turn. But I know we're midweek on this one, but you may still have a chance to sign up for some certification prep courses through Salesforce. And then on the back end of that, there are discounts off of your exams. I know Daniel and a few others have greatly benefited from that to get that next certification. My apologies if you do click into this and everything's full. I did try to share as much as possible through the success group. You may get lucky though. There might be some openings tomorrow or Friday. More certification days though will be, this is for the remainder of the year. Definitely click in to see if what if in the future might work out for you to take as well, because they do go through the certification content and again discount on the back end. You can't beat that. Finally, so a couple of months ago, David Giller from New Jersey presented about the remote work lifestyle. His business is actually Salesforce training. And so he has offered to user group leaders, first, a free reports and dashboards class. Normally $70, it's free. I don't know if there's an expiration on it. I didn't see anything on his site when I clicked in this morning. And again, we will share the links out. Also, I'm going to share this link here when Leah starts presenting, but he is also raffling off a free course on fundamentals for new admins, personal branding for admins, and how to clean your Salesforce org. So if you want to enter, and your email address will not be used for marketing purposes, but if you want to enter, we're going to post this Google form in the chat, and we'll do a randomizer, and at the end of the meeting, we'll draw somebody and we'll connect you with David to get one of these courses for free. So great educational opportunities from a very well-qualified instructor. All righty. Time for me to shut up and introduce Leah. Leah Risener from Auto Alert is going to be presenting on the importance of process documentation. And not to put her on the spot, but I would say stay tuned for some future meetings, because she is a wealth of knowledge on how-tos and best practices. So we're going to be bringing her along in the future for reports and dashboards and some other how to admin types of things. But let's start in September with the importance of process documentation. Leah, let me stop sharing my screen. Let's get you set up and take it away, friend.
Okay. Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
We still see just you.
Just me. Okay. Hang on.
I see all the beautiful smiling faces. Look at all of us. I miss people.
Yes.
Okay, how about now?
Yep.
You are good.
Yay. Okay, so I slightly changed the title a little bit. This is process documentation for Salesforce admins and how to effectively document processes while leveraging Salesforce functionality. So I guess quick background. Oh, I borrowed this deck from my account representative or my account exec. So I put the forward-looking statement slide on there because I am going to talk a little bit about some paid products like Clip, Path, things like that. So it's there. My name is Leah Risener. I am a Salesforce admin at Auto Alert. We're an automotive software company. Kind of quick background on me. I started working in Salesforce as an end user back in 2011. With the company I worked for in the time, I kind of moved up and moved into a BA role. So I was a business analyst, and I think it's kind of funny because I was a business analyst and then became a BA, and now I hear all the Salesforce admins are BAs, or they're calling themselves BAs, and which is totally amazing to me because the first Dreamforce I ever went to a life-changing seminar, which was being a business analyst means being a Salesforce admin. And it really is very similar. So anyway, I was there for quite some time. I figured out that our Salesforce team was very overloaded, and it was a constant struggle. So they ended up offering, for those of us who were power users, if we wanted to take some training and certify to be admins, they'd give us admin rights. So I did that. For a couple of years, moved over to Auto Alert and joined the team here. But I want to go and show you kind of I called it a problematic project life cycle. This is what happens when you're a BA working for business stakeholders, but you aren't a Salesforce admin. And I'm not going to walk through the whole thing, but essentially here we're trying to define the process. We're figuring out from the business end that what we thought was the process was not actually what Salesforce was doing. So as a BA, I have to go back to my stakeholders, come up with new requirements, go back to the Salesforce team, find out if what we want is even possible. 90% of the time they say no, you're being ridiculous, circle back around and move on to actually getting the product done. But the one thing that really would be missing, I would train my users, but I had no technical documentation. So if we come around to process enhancements later on, I still had no idea what the Salesforce team had built in the back end. And even as I became an admin, you know, it was where to find that documentation within Salesforce. When I was at my previous company, I was supporting, I think, 3 different Salesforce orgs. And that's a lot when you don't have a whole lot of knowledge anyway, and you have simple things like description fields not being filled out inside of Salesforce. Very difficult to see. So in my mind, to be an exceptional admin, we design intelligently, we document thoroughly. And I'm going to do my little just process document 101. This is my introduction to process documentation. First of all, let's define it. It's an operational blueprint describing the design, use, and maintenance of a software system. Components of process documentation could include technical outlines, business process overviews, user guides, or in-system guidance. And we'll walk through a little bit of that later on. Classic documentation examples, we have our flow charts, our quick guides, project documents, which mine can get lengthy, and more project documents. So let's talk about why we document. First of all, documentation is not a waste of time. It is essentially a time saver. It's vital for efficient, effective, and accurate change management. The reasons it's vital: reduces risk if key talents are lost or unavailable, especially from an admin side. If I lose my technical admin who built just like a ton of flows, and I don't have any understanding of why he did it or where he put it, and he had no documentation, I am digging through that flow for a long time, trying to figure out just what it's trying to accomplish. If I lose my junior admin, my junior admin went on vacation a couple weeks ago, and we realized that every day she goes in and she maintains the currency. And I had no idea how she did it because I haven't messed with currencies for a very long time. Luckily, we have knowledge articles, and I was able to figure out how to do it. You don't have documentation, you're at a loss. It provides a baseline for future process enhancements. That's where, as a business analyst, I had a rough time. I didn't know what we were currently accomplishing. If you have a document that just quickly outlines the process, you can reference that when you try to design. It also reduces performance variance by creating consistency. If everyone on my team documents and we document in the same way, it's really easy to find the information and it's really easy to adapt that information. Even if all I have is that giant technical process documentation, I can pull pieces out of it to give stakeholders, to give them a lighter level view. Documentation is good for everyone. People across the entire organization benefit from this. For an admin, just a couple quick ones: process enhancements. Again, it's a lot easier to get where you want to be when you know where you have been. For data maintenance, things like territory assignments, where we put them. I have knowledge articles that tell me how I need to go and update that. You know, I know we're all admins, so we're all geniuses, but I'm actually really well known within my team for my boss saying, hey, remember that formula you built? Do you remember blah, blah, blah? And I'll be like, no, I'm the one, really? I'm the one who did that? It happens a lot. If I write it down though, I'll remember why I did what I did. For users, process documentation includes user guides. This can help with onboarding, with role changes within the company. And just as a point of reference for the end user, for business stakeholders, this gives us a way we can create documentation that'll give us a way to explain our configuration complications to non-admins in a clear and concise way. And also it makes stakeholders happy because we have a reduced time to configure, meaning it's not going to take me as long because I already know how to do what I need to do. Yay. So I think I'm moving kind of quickly here, but process documentation 102, how we document. If I can get back to my slide. So I think thorough documentation is really the key here. I know nobody wants to do it, but again, you really are going to save yourself time in the long run and save other people within the company time. When you do a project, if I'm building a new object, for instance, I need to start a requirement gathering, write notes. I mean, we all do it. most of us, I think, do it. You just put it in different places. You don't keep it all in the same location. So you start at your requirement gathering, you keep your meeting notes, you outline the technical requirements from those meetings, document the system as you build. When I build a process builder, I put it in my document that I built that process builder. This helps when it's time to make a change set. I can easily reference my document and find out what components need to go over. So it's not just like, oh, I'm doing it to write it. This has real practical uses. And how many times have you pushed a change set, tried to validate it, and found out that you missed a field? It's so easy to do. If you have that all down, you've got your checklist, you know what to do when you are ready to push that over. Explain how the processes work together in a knowledge article. And now this can be either a back end or a front end. In our team, we have SFDC knowledge articles that are records referenced by us and our junior admins. And then we also have knowledge base articles that are referenced by actual employees. And when I put that documentation out there at the end of a project, I put a project document out there for other admins, and I put a knowledge article out there with a basic quick guide. And I'll show you what that looks like later on. And then you need to outline any data maintenance steps. So if there are things that you need to do, like I created in this process builder that builds assignments, then outline what needs to happen when I change that assignment. What do I need to do? And then again, whenever you roll out a project, these are the things you should have: your knowledge articles, your quick sheets, build in system prompts, use in-app guidance. Make sure you've documented in the actual system. We're going to go into that a little more in depth, but that's the quick view that everybody on the admin side can really see, and there's really just no excuse not to do it, and I'll show you why. And then release notes. Release notes are huge to me, and I'm just going to do a little soapbox on this. Release notes tell business stakeholders what you've done. The reality is most business users basically think we're magic wizards that wave a wand and things happen. They don't always see the work that we're doing for other departments, and they don't see the level of work that they required us to do. Bottom line, if you don't tell them how much you've done, they won't understand your value. So from a purely practical, we want to keep a good staff on our admin team. We want them to understand why certain things take longer. We need to have those release notes. No one is going to toot your horn for you. You need to get out there and you need to celebrate what you've done. And I'm not saying shove it in everybody's face, but make sure that is available and that they know that we're producing. Sorry, that's just a little soapbox item for me. Tips and tricks. So things to keep in mind when building documentation. These are kind of really important but simple. Style. Use a similar style and format for all documentation. And this is where let's get the whole team together. I have a specific template that I use where the header styles are all the same. And I always use a table of contents so you can go through and you can easily get to the place you need to go. But everything is done that way. So anytime you look at a document that I built, you know where to find the information you want to find. And I think that's really key. Also, leaving breadcrumbs. Put cross-references, tables of contents in your documents. And also when I say breadcrumbs, that can be the in-system guidance. That's your description fields. Little places that people can go to kind of guide them to the next step. And then pictures and diagrams speak louder than words, especially when you're talking to business stakeholders. They want to see a picture. They do not want to see a 7-page long text document. I love writing 7-page long text documents, but I am aware enough that I am the only one who reads those. So I try to put in pictures if I want it. Just speak to your audience, which is down here in this next section. So we need to keep it simple. Too much information can be overwhelming. We speak to the audience, and this is another key one for me. Do not assume that people know your terminology. Please spell out terms prior to using the abbreviation. Not everybody knows what a CRM is. I know what a CRM. I hope everybody in this room knows what a CRM is, but my end user may not. And so I need to spell that out. It's just basic English writing. You first spell out the word, and then you put the acronym in parentheses, and then you can go and use the acronym all you want throughout the document. But make sure that people aren't playing the guessing game when they read your documentation. Okay, so this next slide is just a really simple Again, soapbox. I threw in a lot of soapbox items for myself here. How to flow chart. So Salesforce in their flows and process builders uses what I've noticed is basic Six Sigma diagram shapes. If you were to go into Visio, which I have used a lot for documentation, and build one, I would grab those shapes. It's real simple. A start element is always an oval. A decision element is always a diamond. Process elements are squares. Does this seem familiar to Process Builder or Flow? A sub-process looks like that, callouts, and then you have your end element. So whenever I build a flow chart to give to my stakeholders, I try to use a similar process and make sure, again, their eyes are used to seeing the consistency in the documentation so that they're not wasting their time trying to figure out what I'm showing them. They actually are able to digest the content. So now we're going to talk about where documentation goes. So for the admins, there's just a whole ton of places, and I'm going to take you through them in a demo org. We've got object descriptions, description fields and help text on the individual fields. You've got places in Process Builder, in Flow, in your custom metadata, in code. That's a wonderful one. Admins can keep information and knowledge. I put cases because my team, we work our Salesforce request out of cases. So anytime someone says, hey, Leah, remember that field you built? And I don't, I can search it in Salesforce and find the case, and we'll have documented in that case what I did. Features. So right now I have just started to play with Quip. My account manager set me up, and I will show you a Quip document template, and it for the giant process documents that I like to create. And again, I'm not saying everyone has to do that. That is an ideal world. The in-system documentation is something that I really, really encourage everyone to start doing. And then for the users, again, we have knowledge, we have cases, we've got features within Salesforce. You've got Path is a great one. Quip is good for them too. In-app guidance, so much fun. So moving on, let's demo. So here is our object level thing. If you notice, I had created, and actually I'm going to show you the playbook. This is a record. That is not it. I forgot which tab I had what. This is a playbook that I created. This is the new objects that we're going to be looking at. And within each phase, if you expand, there are fields. Well, my users had asked me on each of these fields to give it a value, 10%, 20%, 30%, creating a total score. So this was actually a really complicated request because they have so many fields that I broke my formula fields to do it. So I had to create something that is complicated enough that you can't just lay it out in a couple sentences. So I left breadcrumbs for myself. We go into the object manager, and right here, I describe, first of all, the object. It's used by adoption coaches and success coaches to manage the process. These are titles. Master detail to the POA object, which is another object. I talk about how the new records are fired. And then right here, fields in each phase are replicated in the custom metadata type. So I'm going into metadata. I keep going and telling you that it's being referenced in the playbook object trigger. So now I know that everything in this object, or many of the fields in this object, are actually being fed into code. This would have taken forever to find out if you were a new admin in this system. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to figure out what all was going on without someone telling you. At the field level. So my descriptions for each phase, I have phase 6, set attribution in custom metadata. I have help text for the employee. So there they can see suggestions on what they need to be doing to hit that field. Another field that I have, my scoring field, is also maintained by custom metadata. So I plopped that in there. And it's just, again, real simple. So anytime you go to modify a field, you can see where it's going. Here's a process builder that I ran on the playbook. So I tell you what it does. It sets the assignment, it fires complete email alerts, and all sorts of fun things that apparently you can't expand and have to look at on the process builder page, but you get where I'm going. In my flow, I have a description saying what it is actually doing. So I don't have to dig into the flows. I can simply go in there and get a simple overview of what that flow is doing. Because there are significantly different levels of admins. I think when I was a new admin, I would have desperately needed this. Where I am now, it's very helpful. For a more advanced admin, maybe they can, but it's going to take just a ton of time. So breadcrumbs, they're important. Here we go into our custom metadata, and here you can see I had to detail descriptions exactly what they are doing. So in my metadata, every field in my playbook is a pick list, actually, and each pick list value, let's go back and I'll show you, is worth a percentage point. So my custom metadata tells me that if their, oopsie, clicking too much, if their status is not introduced, it's a 0%. If their status is not applicable, it's not calculated in the score. And all of these total up into a phase 2 score. When we originally designed this, because we thought we could do it with formulas, every field had a comparable formula field. And that's how I broke the formulas and moved to custom metadata. But I am lucky enough to have, and I was talking to the guys before, one of the world's best developers on my team, Jeff Stevens. I don't know if he's on the call, but we were able to do some really creative things to accomplish what the business wanted. So that was super exciting. And this is what Jeff does for me. Jeff, in code, is kind enough to put all of his notes in there. He has a modification history that he creates that even I, as an admin, can see. He's building a map here to run the playbook values. He has these little dashy things. These are notes right here. And so Jeff puts that throughout his code so that even though I'm not a developer, I can figure out what he's trying to accomplish. And I love him for that. And I hope all of you are lucky enough to work with a developer like that. And I hope all of you developers do that. So moving on to the project documents that I was talking about. This is my project document moved into Quip. So Quip is embeddable in Salesforce. I just created this on the fly. But so this was my playbook. Within there, these are my things. I have an objective, the requirements. I have my technical overview, which includes key components. And you notice I have this lovely little table of contents here on the side. So I can see if I just want to know initialization, how it starts, I can pull in here. If I want to look at the code, I can go down here. Rollout is a big one. And this is why I do my project documents, because I drop every single one of those things into a checklist at the end. And this is my checklist. So I had to do a production push. These are all the items I pushed. I had to do a second production push, and these are all the items I pushed. It's really nice. That is just a point of reference for yourself. But at any point, another admin can come in and try to figure out what I'm doing in my various pieces of automation by looking at this document. The knowledge article that we have created, I was going to show you one of the Salesforce ones. This is my currency rates that my junior admin does for me and that I got to reference to figure out how to update currency. Isn't it lovely? So this is a Salesforce knowledge. Then we also have the case, as I said, and I'm trying to pull up another one. Okay, so now we're going to talk about users. For a user process documentation, I utilize path on this particular object, and I love it because right here, the user knows exactly what they need to do to accomplish that stage. And some of these have a little bit more information in them. In this section, I've actually got some fields for them to fill out also with the guidance. So just kind of a really good way to help your users go through. I think using in-app guidance and system prompts, you can really get away from having to do, a huge user guide. I can give this to new users. They come in, they see it. When process changes happen, if the business sends me the information, I can use in-app guidance, which is over here. to actually pop up a little thing. Don't forget to add a dealer contact so you remember who you spoke to. See, I hadn't. And I just showed you this in the editor so it would show up. But in-app guidance is recent and really, really super helpful for rolling out change within your organization. If you don't use it already, I highly recommend telling your business users about it, because I bet they will come up with just a zillion ways that you can use it. And then here's what a user would get as far as the quick guide that I would create in Knowledge for them to see exactly what they need to do. See, I gave them pictures and details so they can go in there and they can easily see basically the pieces of the playbook and what they need to do on it. Oh, and this is another Knowledge article. So that kind of runs through my demo, and that's really what I have. The big thing is, you know, with documentation, you can leverage those various systems and really, or various parts of the system, and really leave people with places to go and find the information that they need without having to do that magic knowledge transfer or a deep search trying to figure things out. It's really can be made quite simple with just taking the time to write out a description field, with taking the time to document what you've done. It helps everybody out. So anyway, that is all I have today. I hope, does anyone have any questions, or do we want to do Q&A on that?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we need to be having conversations on.
This is my love. I love process documentation. I have to tell you.
And Leah, this is Mike. I cannot applaud enough. It's really important. Because it is. I take after your heart, because I try to document. I don't write nearly as well as you do, but it is truly a great topic and very important for all of us, because we're covering so many bases.
Yeah. Yes, we are. And,
Yeah,
and it is like
Oh, go ahead, Leah.
Oh, go ahead. I was just saying, one of the key things we were talking about earlier before everyone joined the call, you know, is that being an admin is much more than the technical work. In fact, it's probably the smallest piece of what we do. We spend a lot of times meeting with stakeholders, getting those requirements. And a key part of that should also be documenting the system, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the challenges I've always faced is when you're a solo admin and you're doing 6 other things, sometimes not all of us, Leah, share your passion for documentation. And for a lot of us, the idea of sitting down and writing a process document after I've done all the other things that I need to do is the absolute last thing I want to do. So I really appreciated some of the opportunities you gave us and you highlighted to do that documentation while you're doing those other things, right? Like something as simple as filling out a description field or filling out guidance for success for the users or things like that, right? These are things that are already part of the workflow that you're doing during the configuration.
Yeah, you're right there building those fields. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's really powerful because you know, going and building a whole process document might not happen every time, but surely we can be able to, you know, we should be able to fill out a description field every time, right? And get yourself in good hands.
Yeah, and it's, you know, the process document is not necessary every time. When you're building a whole new object like I was, then you probably do need one. But if you're just making a functionality change, I will say if there is any one takeaway for people to take away, this is my big other soapbox. Anytime you have a field that is being populated by a flow or a process builder or code, put it in the field description. Oh my gosh, put it in the field description. Save us all some time.
Yes.
You don't know how much time I have wasted trying to figure out how a lookup field is populated. And it's so simple. That's my big one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other
Anybody
questions
else?
for Leah? Really awesome presentation.
Thank you.
I'll throw one enhancement
Oh
at
yeah,
you.
please go ahead.
Yeah.
Because again, I you know, the description, I will I create records, cases similar to cases, but I'll put that URL in the description field as my breadcrumb to get, just a different way to do the same thing. One thing.
Yeah, that makes it nice and fast. If you don't want to type everything out, just, reference this case. That's when I did it.
Yeah. Another thing about justifying our existence, something that's always fun to do 5 years ago. So today is the next best day. A couple of weeks back, I created a document so that when going back to your flow chart on the process builder, just as the example, we reach a decision point and something happens. So we're going to send an email, going to populate a field, going to do those things that we do every day. I added one more step in the process builder to create a record. And it says, I was on this process builder at this decision point, and I started an approval process, or I sent an email, or updated 15 fields. So I'm creating a record in a new object so I can scroll up and roll up and see how many actions my work or my team's work is doing over the course of time. And it helps justify our existence when we're doing thousands of actions. Like you say, it gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, no, like we do cases that we work out of, and we also have a custom master case object that, like, for the playbook, it's a master case because I ended up with a zillion sub cases under that. But we have, for our KPI performance, we can say we closed this many cases. However, like the case I close versus the case my junior admin closes, she can close a case in 30 minutes, sometimes faster. My cases may take me 60, 90 days. I mean, so you can't use that as a justification. That's why I say release notes are so important, because then I'm drilling into people's heads. Okay, I did this, this, and this. I did this for your department, but look at all the stuff I did for the other departments. You're not the only person feeding me requirements, Buster. Just saying. And I am lucky at Auto Alert. Our business stakeholders are incredibly well bought in. Our team has a really good reputation. We've got, great leadership, stellar admins. We've got Jeff. But part of that, I think, is that we take the time to celebrate our wins, and we take the time to let the business know what we're doing for them, to build that rapport with them and that trust. If it just goes into magic fairyland and admin does it, and we do the bare minimum of what they ask, they don't think we did anything big. Even if we did, even though it may have taken us 6 months, they're going to think it just took us, well, hopefully not 6 months, but even though it took me, a month, they're going to be like, why did it take you a month? Because they have no idea what it meant to do that and what other strains I had. I mean, I know those of you who are in the consulting work are probably already sold on the release notes idea, but it's not just for consultants. If you are in a business, this is how you justify your existence. This is how you justify getting more team members. This is how you justify getting a raise, like, put yourself out there.
And I'll add on to that. I put a chat comment earlier when you talked about nobody wants to take the time to do process documentation yet. Nobody, even us consultants who are being paid to have to produce that kind of stuff. We don't necessarily always want to have to. But the point I put out there is, like many things with technology, process documentation should not be considered a cost. It is an investment. Because if you start it now, if you keep it updated now, if you upgrade it now, you are buying yourself so much capacity and bandwidth in the future to continue enhancing, not having to go back and even when something breaks, you're not having to go 2 steps back to figure out how do we get here. You're able to fix on the fly. And when you have the opportunity to enhance, you're ready.
Yeah, if you want to go out the business, it's from a development turn. It's about reducing technical debt. That is what we do when we document. We reduce technical debt, and that's a huge thing. So.
And that also goes into the justifying you in your role and the head count and all of that. Is if you are clearing the way to have more capacity and bandwidth for those future enhancements, everybody wins. You have absolutely solidified your value in your organization. And all it takes is starting now.
Yep. You don't have to go back and document your whole system. I mean, that would be lovely, but nobody has time. But starting now, next time you update a process builder, make sure the description field in that well, if you update a field via Process Builder, make sure the description field is done. Next time you update a flow, put the description field in there. You know, it doesn't have to happen in one giant whole team project. Let's all get on board and document the system, because my gosh, that could take a lot. But we can definitely move forward. Take your baby steps. Change is a process, and I'm not saying change the way you do everything, but taking a few steps to kind of make life easier on yourself and other members of your team. Let's do it, you know?
Mm-hmm. One other thing I'll throw out there is there are tools on the App Exchange and otherwise that if you haven't started documentation, they will scrape your org and go look for either description fields that are populated, help text, if you're savvy with DX or back in the days Eclipse, like getting into the XML files, breaking them down, all that kind of stuff. If you've been populating maybe description fields here and there, you have a starting point. You can go scrape that information out. Or again, like when I was an admin, my favorite tool was Octopus. That always helped me go reconcile. Again, I don't remember if it was the description or the help text field, but it went through the entire org and said, all right, where have you populated description or help text? And it spat it out in, I could choose Word, I could choose PDF, I could choose Excel, whatever. But there are tools out there that will start that for you if you haven't officially started it yet, that can be your kickstart.
Nice.
Including our sponsor in a couple of weeks. Speckit is a really cool tool for exactly this, and specifically for delivering that process documentation in application to users. So a little teaser for next week for you process documentation junkies. Our sponsor will be talking about this topic as well. So we'll get a double dose here in a couple of weeks.
And I will say,
and now everybody is a process documentation junkie, right? Like we just created a whole bunch of them.
Let's go. Let's do it. Yeah.
Everyone on this call.
No, one other thing that I'll throw out there is, first of all, thank you, Leah. That was beyond awesome and so critical. The documentation piece is one of the horribly underappreciated pieces of our ecosystem. So I appreciate you, I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate your willingness to get out and evangelize it. Going back to the speaker interest form, that's exactly what we need from all of you. If you are passionate or stand on a soapbox or live in the soapbox or throw soapboxes at people about the things, we want to hear from you. So please go sign up on the speaker interest form. I just updated it to capture interest through April.
Excellent.
Take what Leah did, and like that was phenomenal. That was a phenomenal model right there. Like own it, love it,
thank you.
Evangelize it. So thank you.
Well, speaking of forms, before we jump into Winter 21 release, a reminder, if you haven't completed the David Giller raffle, please do so. We only have a handful of responses, I'm being told, sources say. So please fill that out if you want a chance to win. And we'll do that here after we talk Winter 21 release for a few minutes. And fill out the speaker request form now as well. So, alrighty, let me share our deck here. We'll cover some Winter 21 resources. I do hope, it looks like we have enough time where I'm going to be able to get into a couple of actual features, which is exciting. But of course, first and foremost, we want to teach you all how to fish. So we wanted to talk about some of the release resources that are available. And we'll make sure this deck is published so that all the links are available. But release notes are available. You can see actually there's a little, maybe you can't see it, but there's a little short URL for that. But if you don't already know how to go to releasenotes.docs.salesforce.com, that's where that is. And Winter 21 release notes are all there in all their glory. So be sure to go check those out. There is a release preview site that they made available. I'm actually going to pop that open because I don't go to that page. So this is new for me. But there's all sorts of great information here. I am a sucker for the release in a box. I use that internally
There's a link to it in a couple of slides.
There's a link to it in a couple of slides as well. So the release in a box is very cool. And in the context of selling yourself internally, one of the things that I hear from stakeholders all the time is how expensive Salesforce is. And I always have to remind them that one of the reasons that Salesforce is expensive is because you're getting 3 major releases of functionality delivered to you for $0 that you're already paying for. And so in addition to your own internal release notes and promoting the stuff that your internal team is doing, I think it's just as valuable to promote the stuff that you're just getting handed as part of the release. So be sure to use the release readiness tools that are out here and the release in a box to train your end users, especially on stuff that's going to impact their experience, but also to just kind of remind executives that, hey, Salesforce delivered 452 pages of release notes this quarter that we just got because we already paid for the user licenses. The Winter 21 release module is out on Trailhead. That's also a friendly reminder that if you haven't done your summer cert maintenance yet, make sure to go do that. And then, because I'm guilty of that. And go check out the Winter 21 Trailhead module. It'll show you all sorts of things that are new and coming out in winter. A lot of all the release readiness live webinars have happened, but they all are out there. So go check them out. As a Flownatic, I highly recommend the Flow session because, boy, it was mind-blowing. And all of them are great, but the Flow one in particular really perfect. Winter 21 goes live in production for some of you already, but for most of us, 10.9 or 10.16. I think I'm a 10.9er, so hopefully by the time we have our next session, I'll be on Winter and I can tell you all about it. Be sure to check out your status.salesforce.com and your domain for when you go live. And
for those who are new to Salesforce, status.salesforce.com also covers sandbox instances. It's not just production, because sandbox is released ahead of time. Also just regular maintenances, outages, all that kind of stuff. It's across the board, production and sandbox.
Absolutely. In fact, most of you, well, depending on where you landed in the release or in the sandbox refresh window, which is a conversation for another time probably, but that whole release process, your sandbox may be on Winter already, and you might be able to play with some of these features in advance. So check that out. And then there's a link there for the global release webinars in October as well. And those are more of the like post-release, as opposed to release readiness, right? These are the webinars that are, hey, the release has happened. Release in a box. So I actually have that pulled up, so I'll show that here in a second. It's awesome. They do have a PDF version and a Google Slides version. Dale, I don't know about you. When I tried to get the Google Slides version, it said I needed to request access. Did that happen to you too?
I requested access, and then I made a copy, and then I made it with a public link for anyone to download, and it's right there.
Fantastic. You're the best.
So
use this link, not the link. Wait, which link?
Use the links in the deck. Use the links in the deck.
Not so the Google Slides links or the release overview deck link. Because one of them you're gonna have to request access to, and the other
I swear I tested them. I'll play around with it.
Trust Dale.
We'll edit it in post.
Yeah, exactly. And then Winter 21 highlights. So they make this really awesome playlist of all these features, and they embed those videos into the release overview deck, which I think is super valuable. So generally, and they talk about this in the release deck a little bit, but you don't want to overwhelm people with features. Try when you're delivering your release sort of readiness slides. Keep it to maybe 5 features, maybe 6 features per group. Keep them short and sweet with the teams. Try to make your, do a lot of small sessions as opposed to trying to do one big session where you cover everything. Because as we all know, end users, their attention spans are not very long. And there's a great blog post as well. So check that out. Even more resources to cover. So feature matrix, again, use these links. They're awesome. The success community post, I do want to highlight this. The success community groups around these releases are so cool and really allow you to, especially after the release notes come out, pummel the community group with questions about the specifics of what's being delivered. So if you're like me and there's a feature maybe that you've been waiting for a while, and now the release notes come out and maybe it's not quite what you expected, these community groups are the place to go to get your answers and the specifics of how it's really going to impact you.
I want quick create in Lightning. Why can't I have quick create in Lightning?
You're banished, Dale. That's not allowed.
Shunned.
We already talked about the certification maintenance exam, the COVID-related requirement updates. So just a friendly reminder, do your maintenance exams, and most of that, well, for a lot of them are on Trailhead now. So the webcam piece isn't even part of it anymore. But and don't forget to connect to the Release Readiness Trailblazers Success Group and set your email settings to Daily Digest. That's Dale's soapbox.
Weekly is so dumb. Weekly as a default is so dumb.
So these are the dates that I was referencing earlier around the release schedule. So you see the sandbox preview window started on 9/11, and that means that depending on what domain or what instance your sandbox was on, you may be on a sandbox or a Winter 21 instance now. So check it out. You can go in and see. You can always see if you've got Yeti Astro, and that'll let you know that you're on the Winter 21 version. And as you can see, we're coming up to it. We're into release weekends, basically. So hopefully you've done some release readiness work. If you haven't, spent some time checking out those release readiness videos and all the resources we just covered over the next week or so before you get winter in your orgs.
And this timeline slide is a couple of weeks old, but I don't think they still haven't announced the official dates for the global release webinars.
Correct.
I want to say it's probably going to be back half of October, but follow the release readiness group and you'll get updates.
So I wanted to pull up just a couple of features that I thought were really cool that I wanted to speak to. So the big one, the one that's going to impact us because it's really fundamentally changing the foundation of how we build pages, is dynamic forms. It's been something that has been talked about for a long time, something that's been requested for a long time, and it's going to change the way that you think about building pages. It's going to change the way that you administer page layouts, and it's especially huge, in my opinion, for mobile devices as well. So what is dynamic forms? Dynamic forms, if you don't know, is breaking up the monolithic details section of your page and allowing you to create individual field sections and drag individual fields into sections on a page. Why is that cool? Well, it's cool for a lot of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is conditional visibility plus dynamic forms means that you can now have entire sections of pages or even individual fields show or hide depending on what is being entered on the page, or other things like which user is viewing the page or what device they're using to view the page, as opposed to the old school way of building a page layout for every profile and assigning it. Now you can have a single page, lightning page, and dynamically drive the visibility of all those fields based on those users. Let's be honest, there's a lot that we don't know yet about best practices for this, right? So I'm not recommending you go out and automatically change all of your pages to this, right? I'm sure there are a lot of people out there, though, that have use cases for this. I know I'm one of them and is really excited to get it started.
Kill all the validation rules with dynamic pages.
Yes,
Kill the
right?
VRs, get rid of them.
And no longer will you have to do what I've done for years, which is, create a flow to do the dynamic stuff that you should have been able to do on a page and launch that flow as a wizard. Well, now the page acts like a wizard as opposed to having to create a separate flow to do that. I'm sure there will still be use cases for that, but it's super, super easy to get started. What you do is you go to a record detail page and you click upgrade now. And in fact, I'm going to do that for us right now. So as a subtle thing, I use Salesforce to track my change management. So I make people create ideas and then I convert those ideas to backlog items. And then I work those backlog items within Salesforce and spit out production within Salesforce. So I just wanted to promote that as something that you could do if you wanted to. And what I'm going to do is take this as backlog item and I'm going to update this to the new structure. So I went to the gear, I went to edit page. I'm opening up that page in Lightning App Builder. And then all I have to do is select. One thing that's kind of weird, you would expect the button to be like up here right away, but you have to actually click on the details section or the details component to upgrade it. So once you click on the details section, the upgrade now appears. And when you click upgrade now, it'll sell you on it. You can decide which page layouts you want to use as the initial source for your dynamic form. I only have one page layout here, but you know, you're going to have potentially a lot of them. So you're saying, okay, what set of fields do you want to start from? So if you have like a master page layout or something like that that has everything on it, maybe that's where you want to start. If you have something specific because you're working within a specific context, like commercial banking in my org, then maybe you want to use that. So you pick your page layout, and voila, a couple things happened. One, it replaced details with a new accordion component and a new field section. And I now have a new section over here that popped up next to components that gives me all of the fields that were part of that page layout and field sections that I can add on the page. So now if I want to create a field section up here above quick links that has my, you know, 3 key fields that I care about, my name, come on, drag, there we go. You know, maybe my name and my type and my priority. Ta-da. Let's see what else we can do. I just dragged a field called priority over here. I now have UI behavior that I can set that's read-only or required or none if I want to specifically render a field in a particular way on a particular page when maybe it isn't normally that way on other pages or in the overall field level security description, right? So maybe priority is normally a fine field, but in this specific context on this particular record page, I want it to be read-only. I can do that, and it just locked it down, right? I can also conditionally render that field based on anything from other fields on the page or user attributes, and I can go all the way through from user to profile name, right? Or a particular permission, like a custom permission around smart checklists in my org, or other information on other records, right? So I want to only show this field if the connected originating idea has a status of ready for review, right? Phenomenal, outstanding, game changing, right? So this is huge. The ability to take these field sections and move them around. And, oh, by the way, we go to the phone here. While field sections aren't available yet for phone, that's coming next, we do now have dynamic actions for Salesforce mobile app beta. So we have dynamic actions on desktop as well in the same way that we have dynamic fields. And they just introduced dynamic actions for the mobile device. So let's say that I want to allow for delete on mobile, but only when the user profile is name equals system administrator. So I just gave myself a delete button on my mobile app, and nobody else will have that delete button. That's pretty freaking cool. If you didn't know, you can already do that today, right now, on desktop, and you'll be able to do it on more objects in Winter. You enable the actions, the dynamic actions, by clicking on the highlights panel. So same way we clicked on details to enable the fields and field sections, you click on the highlights panel, you're going to have an upgrade button that lets you upgrade to dynamic actions. You can decide to migrate from the existing page layout or start from scratch. In this case, I'll start from scratch, and then I'll just add actions as I need them in the same way. So I can, in this case, add receive alerts based on the priority equaling high. And now I've got a button. And because the priority isn't high on this particular record, you're not seeing it, right? And you would only see it when you went to that record that had the page that was high. Okay, that's a lot. Dynamic forms and dynamic actions, I try not to be hyperbolic, but it is going to fundamentally change how we build pages, make you totally reimagine your page layouts. And so if you haven't already started thinking about this and started thinking about dynamic actions, you need to start thinking about it with field sections too. I think initially it's going to be a really positive thing. You'll be able to deliver on use cases that you haven't been able to deliver before, which is really exciting. I'm going to sprinkle a grain of salt on that, right? Like we all have stepped into orgs or seen orgs that have hundreds of page layouts. You don't want to get yourself into that scenario with lightning page layouts either. So just be really conscious and deliberate in the decisions that you make around generating new page layouts. Hopefully these new tools will let you continue to work on a single page lightning page and build the customization you need into the platform.
So Jeff, I'm asking this simply because I haven't had a chance to play with it.
Yeah. No,
every few releases or so, Salesforce loves to ask you to enable a feature, and on the back end of it, like you can't go back, or you have to sacrifice something else. So you had to go through enabling the ability to have dynamic pages. Are there any positive or negative consequences on the back end of that, and is it undoable?
It is undoable within a particular page, right? So I upgraded this single page to
an
that
existing page,
functionality, an existing page, right? So I can never go back on this page, right?
Gotcha.
Now I could go create another page with the old structure and be fine, and change my page assignments and be all good, right? But for this specific page, once you upgrade, you upgrade. The other like gotcha is if you're playing with this in a sandbox, don't do this in a sandbox where you're going to actually need to push changes between when you upgraded it and when you get Winter 21 in production, because otherwise you're going to get an error that says that your production environment doesn't have a clue what you're talking about with this new Winter 21 version of this page, right? So not that any of us would do that, but don't play with stuff in a sandbox org that you might actually need to push changes to production, unless you're intentionally trying to set yourself up so you can push a bunch of changes immediately after the release goes live, which maybe isn't a great approach either. But.
Well, I mean, that's with every single release. Any new feature, like your production is going to come last. But a great point on that, though. Will change sets fully support dynamic page layouts? Because again, every so often you end up with a feature that out of the box change sets don't fully support, and you're stuck doing it manually as you progress up your orgs.
Everything I've read suggests that the field section and field configurations are all bundled into the Lightning page. So because the Lightning page is supported in field sets, so will all of the individual components of the Lightning page. So I haven't seen anything that talks about gotcha. Now I haven't tried it, so but everything I've read says it's fully supported.
So yeah. So then Daniel asked, and there's a couple of private follow-up questions.
Awesome.
So custom objects only for now.
Custom objects only for, let me validate that, because for dynamic actions, it's one answer, and for dynamic forms, it's a different answer.
Okay, and because I thought I'd also heard a little birdie somewhere say that like an almost fast follower might be account or case or opportunity. It won't be the full suite of standard objects, but we won't be confined to only custom objects for long, but for now it is only custom objects.
Yes, I think that's correct. Like they did this with dynamic actions, where dynamic actions was available initially just for custom objects, and then in Winter 21, they're rolling dynamic actions on desktop for standard objects now. And so I would assume they're going to follow the same methodology with dynamic forms, where dynamic forms is going to Well, shoot, let's just go look. Hey, let's pick an account page, and we'll try to upgrade it. We'll see if it works. How about that? But with dynamic actions, they did that approach where they started with custom, and then in the next release, they rolled all the typical standard objects. Let me go here. I have a financial services cloud standard details screen, so I have to add the regular details screen so I can upgrade. Yep. So I'm selecting my record detail, and I'm not being given the option to upgrade. So good call, Daniel. I think you're absolutely correct on that. They'll take the same sort of methodological approach that they did last time and do custom in round 1 and then standard in round 2. So with dynamic actions, the standard objects that are available now are account, case, contact, lead, and opportunity. And that is going to be available in Winter 21. Right now, today, you can use dynamic actions on custom objects in your production orgs. Cool, good questions. Any other questions, Dale? We want to hit on that?
Looking through the chat to see if anybody put anything out there.
Cool. It's a big one. It's been a long time coming.
Well, it is, and I don't know if I'm getting sick of the word reimagining or not. I don't know if I like it, but I don't know. I'm hearing it everywhere. Even on the debates last night, they were talking about reimagining debates. But it's interesting how, for new admins, for new people to Salesforce, this is all they know. I actually just had a conversation with my client about this yesterday, doing some discovery, and he said, well, I've been doing this since 2016. I've only ever known Lightning. I'm like, great. None of my classic PTSD will apply to you. But it's interesting, though, how many, going back to like idea exchange prioritization and why can't we get certain ideas pushed through or whatever, there are some of those that are kind of revolutionary when we start thinking about potentially profiles going away in favor of permission set groups. We start thinking about reducing page layouts in favor of dynamic forms, dynamic actions, like really, really, and I'll bring Leah into this one, going back to the process conversation. This is really going to force, and I mean this positively, this is going to force anybody who touches their org to know how everything is supposed to work. Yep. Because you're going to have a business process flow, you're going to have a technical process flow, and there's going to be someone like an admin who's going to have to do the traceability between the two. And those are the kinds of tools that are going to facilitate the end product.
It's such a great point that, the reality is that Classic was a step above a spreadsheet, and it was still very like record driven. And I think all of the changes that we've seen with Lightning, the changes that we're seeing now with dynamic forms and dynamic actions, Salesforce is trying to even more tightly bind the business process with the technology, right? So the business process just is the technology, and you have to define, as you define the business process, it in turn defines how the page is built and where the fields go and when the actions appear in ways that we just weren't able to do it before. Speaking of idea exchange things and long time coming things, starting in Winter 21, you can now trigger a flow to run before a record is deleted. Trigger exists. Now, it's only a before delete, but the power that you get with this is just tremendous. The most obvious use case, of course, is I've got a record, and when that record gets deleted, I need to go do some cleanup to clean up a bunch of related records that are connected to that record, so I don't get a bunch of orphans out there, right? Up until this point, if you want to do that, you had to write a before trigger in Apex, and you had to go find all the stuff you needed to delete and all that stuff. Well, now, using Flow, you can create a record triggered flow, trigger it when a record is deleted, before the record is deleted, and then go do stuff like get a related account and update that related account. Maybe there was a count of records that wasn't being managed with a regular roll-up summary. You could do that. And use, by the way, if you aren't already starting to migrate towards record triggered flows to replace your process builders, this is a good reason to do it. You should be thinking that way anyway, because eventually process builder is going to be sunset and rolled into what they're doing with these record triggered flows. So safe harbor, obviously, but it's obvious by what they're doing that that's the plan. So you just select a record is deleted. One thing that's important to note, if you restore that record later, it's not like it goes back and finds all the other records and restores those records, right? So like it still is just a delete operation. You'd have to build a separate flow on create or recreate. And the reality is you're talking code at that point when you're doing restoration. But this is a huge deal. They're marking it as partially delivered. That's my favorite delivery status on the Idea Exchange. And that's going to be available in winter 21. So very, very cool and very exciting and a long time coming.
So one thing I challenge my clients with, and I even challenged my users when I was an admin, is because it's kind of complex to resurrect things following an undelete or recovery from recycle bin or whatever operation you choose to call it and use. From a business process standpoint, I always pose the question, why would there be a need to delete data? Should it poses the question, should it have ever been data to begin with? Should there be a reconciliation of an error process? Like if it's, oh, whoops, I created a bogey record, whatever. Okay, no, can you fold that in? Is it potentially a standard object that can be merged in? But I don't love delete functions on non-admin users. End users, a good org should never require its end users to understand how everything works. They should just be empowered to do their job. And one of the byproduct questions with that is, why should a user be able to delete versus status it to closed or status it to canceled or filter out reports or whatever it may be? Because delete, with great power comes great responsibility. If you need to undelete something, it's not awesome.
Yeah, I think the exception that proves that rule is merging.
Well, yeah, because it naturally folds all those child relationships in.
Exactly. And I think too often folks are afraid of deleting contacts and accounts with the merge function, but that's what it's there for. And there's a lot of safeguards with merge. I'd love to be able to, someday maybe Salesforce would give us a separate merge checkbox to check on a profile as opposed to just straight up delete. But luckily, now that we have dynamic actions, you can have a delete button on a page layout and still not show it unless it's an admin who's looking at it, which is cool. Speaking of deletes, this is just a little thing for me, but as somebody who hates going back to Classic and wishes that it didn't exist, one of the things I still had to do as an admin was go back to Classic to manage deleted fields. And they're giving us a little deleted fields button in Lightning, which is lovely. So we don't have to do that anymore. And there was much rejoicing.
So with that, is the process still going to be, when you undelete a field, will it still have DEL in its API name for you to have to go scrape out and
it does
connect back in?
It does.
Okay.
Yep. As of now, it's still going to have that DEL. A couple of the little admin-y things, just little things that you might I want to talk about the big thing, but then a lot of what I'm talking about are like little admin stuff that isn't going to get highlighted in a release readiness webinar, right? But is cool and something people ask for. Utility bar alignment is one of them. Depending on how your page is built, sometimes it gets really annoying where your utility bar is and where those pop-ups are. And I've gotten the question in the past, like, well, can't we just move the utility bar over here? And the answer is no. Well, now you can. You only get two options, though. You get left side, right side. But for those folks who build applications where maybe you've got an activity timeline on the right side or something like that, where it makes sense to pop up the utility bar over top of that rather than maybe some record details on the left side, this is now an option for you. So that's lovely and exciting. Another little admin-y thing. It's beta, safe harbor. You know how when you create a new custom field and then you have to go find every report type that custom field needs to get added to and add that custom field to that report type? Well, Now you don't have to do that. You can check a box and you can say, hey, when I create a custom field, go ahead and add this field to all of the reports that it needs to get added to. There's a section here in the reports and dashboard settings. There's a button or a checkbox now for auto add new custom fields to custom report type layouts. Now, if you've got really cool layouts for your report types, you're going to end up having to go clean it up anyway, right? Because it's just going to add it to the first layout section. But if you're the type of user who maybe just kind of uses the out of the box layouts and doesn't get too crazy with your report field layouts, it's just going to automatically add that field into the general layout section. So hopefully a little time saver for folks who have a lot of custom report types in their org. A couple of salesy things. Change deals at a glance. Just some other ways that Salesforce is trying to make it easier for folks to get more information from list views. So when you're looking at either a Kanban or a table view of opportunities, it'll show you deal change highlights. And you can choose whether you want to show amounts that changed or close dates that changed or both. And you can see, you know, hey, this got updated from 8:30 to 8:26. You'll have a little back arrow or a little up arrow if the amount went up. I think that's a neat little visualization. Let's all take a moment of silence for report and data accuracy in Salesforce. I'm not happy about this, but I know a lot of people are. You can now subscribe to get report results delivered by email in a CSV or XLSX format. So if you have a report, in this example, it's a pipeline report history, and you want it to get sent to your inbox, you can do so. It's going to send you up to 15,000 rows and up to 30 columns. So use this wisely. I have
an easy fix. Don't.
Yeah, or don't use it at all. Don't tell your users because they'll use it all the time.
Tell them it's a thing.
I get it, I guess, but you know, the second you take data out of Salesforce, it's stale. So unless you're using it explicitly for history, which is a really valid point, or like I'm in banking now, so I have to wrap my mind around all this like month-end, quarter-end crap that they really care about, which I'm sure other companies do too. But historically, I care more about like live data. So I get it, right? Why you'd want to schedule something to send you an email at, you know, 11:59 on the end of the month date. But just use cautiously, I would say.
So I know we're getting into new functionality here, whatever that maybe you haven't played with, but
yeah.
With that, does the export include a message that says data as of date time, or is there something configurable that an admin can put in as a disclaimer that says, hey, when I send this to you and you bug me about it 2 weeks later that the data doesn't match, I put in there that it was as of that moment in time?
That's a good question. So whenever it's using the standard export view functionality. So if you're exporting it as a formatted report, you do get that nice header that says, you know, as of this date generated by so-and-so, you know, at this date time, right? But if you're doing it as a details report or details only export, then you don't get any of that disclaimer sort of language. And there's no yet anyway capability to craft messaging around how this is delivered. It's just, here's the report. You're going to get it just like how today, if you subscribe to the report, right, you get like a standard email that's not editable that gives you the link to the report. This is just tacking onto that with the file attached. So if you're going to do this, to Dale's point, and you can get away with using the formatted report, do that, because it will have some of that disclaimer language on there.
And then also for those of you who have tools like Conga or Drawloop or anything like that, where you can then customize an email template, you're not using this report feature here, but right. For those email automation capabilities, don't be shy about putting disclaimers in there to CYA of, look, this is a snapshot in time. At the second, don't say this verbatim, but the second I send this data is stale. Figure out how to, massage that message, but find any opportunity you can, because you don't want them coming back and yelling at you for something that you told them. Look, if you do it this way, this is what's going to happen. Yeah,
totally. And I agree, Daniel. Blame the stakeholders. It's always their fault. So opportunity scoring model. This is just my pitch to tell everyone that, like, if you have Sales Cloud and you're not using opportunity scoring for everyone, what are you doing? Use it. It's free. It's included. So go do that. And one of the things that's really exciting is they're starting to introduce some additional fine tuning, some additional capabilities here. Namely, hey, I've got different opportunity types and I need to create different scoring models for those different opportunity types, right? That's kind of a no-brainer. Well, up until now, it hasn't been able to do that. It's been able to take it into consideration in the scoring, but you haven't been able to create explicitly different scoring models, which you'll be able to do, which is really exciting. So check that out if you don't have opportunity scoring in place. Go do that. Now's a good time to do it because they're introducing some new functionality between this release and the next one that'll make it even more valuable. This is kind of my PSA about, I'm sure many of us are Microsoft organizations and have Outlook. This is my PSA about a couple of things around Microsoft integration and just email activities and capabilities in general. One, you know, Salesforce and Microsoft have this partnership. They've been working on some things. There is a pilot out there for Microsoft Teams. If you're a big Teams shop, I definitely recommend you talk to your AE and try to get on that pilot to help shape what that's going to look like, because you probably care and they probably won't make the right decisions if you don't get involved. So do that. The other thing is just a kind of a comment around where they seem to be going with Outlook integration. So one, they've officially turned off Lightning Sync for new Salesforce customers. So if you're a new Salesforce customer and you're starting, you obviously don't get Salesforce for Outlook anymore. Now you don't even get Lightning Sync for Microsoft Exchange. Lightning Sync, as a reminder, is the contact and event synchronization. So if you want to sync contacts and events now as a new customer, your only option is Einstein Activity Capture. So for those of you who are on Lightning Sync today and have not yet migrated to Einstein Activity Capture, you want to start learning about it and you want to start planning or putting on your roadmap a transition. Now, a couple of things about Einstein Activity Capture. For those of you who don't know what it is, they're trying to make it so that it's an interesting play to me. The email information isn't really stored in Salesforce anymore. It's referenceable in Salesforce, but the emails themselves are actually stored within Microsoft and referenced by Salesforce and reportable only through specific activity reports that are provided to you. So there's a lot of caveats and kind of gotchas with the current Einstein Activity Capture. But one of the things that is really cool about it is, of course, it just automatically grabs all your emails, which is great. And for those of you who use opportunity scoring or any of the other Einstein components, obviously email insights play a big part into that. So if you use Einstein Activity Capture, you're getting a lot of bonus wins to kind of feed into your email insights for those. But there are some new enhancements to how they are allowing you to control the data flow to sort of replace Lightning Sync. So in the past, they were only able, you only had certain ways that you could sync events and contacts. They basically elevated or upgraded the EAC functionality to match Lightning Sync. So now you can say, I want events but not contacts, or I want contacts but not events, and I can control the sync direction the same way that I was able to with Lightning Sync. So just again, kind of a PSA, be thinking about your email strategy long-term. Check out EAC, Einstein Activity Capture. It's free for everybody. It's not cost, but check it out and make a plan, because they definitely are changing how they deal with email, and we need to be ready for that. So, I know we're running out of time, so last couple of things before we do the raffle. These are really quick hits about mobile. Mobile doesn't get a lot of love, and they did a nice upgrade, I think about a year ago now, with the mobile app to give you more control, kind of make it aligned with the approach they were taking with the desktop Lightning App Builder. Wanted to call out a couple quick lightning things. One, they're introducing this thing called Launchpad, which I think is kind of cool. You can add so assuming that you've already upgraded to the new, it's like a year old now, but the new mobile app, and you're using Lightning components on your mobile apps, then you can use this Launchpad component to create shortcuts, basically, to stuff that people use all the time. And you can add up to 30 shortcuts, I believe, up to 20, excuse me, items on their Launchpad. So if you've got a home page that maybe still doesn't get folks where they need to go as quickly as you'd like, this is one way to do that. I haven't seen this anywhere except in the release notes, so check that out. This is just a heads up that they're trying to improve the scrolling experience, but I pulled this up because you can now copy and paste directly in the app. I can't believe I'm saying that in 2020, but that's a real thing that they're promoting. So good on you, Salesforce, for allowing copy and paste in the mobile app. This is important. So up until now, I'm sure y'all know if you use mobile at all, this is big for me and like my bankers on the go. So I care a lot about mobile. Sorry if you don't, but I think it's important, and people, especially in these remote COVID times, should be using their phones more to run Salesforce. So activity timeline hasn't been a thing on mobile, even for those upgraded mobile Lightning pages. You still had the old school open activities and activity history related lists. Well, in Winter 21, they're finally bringing the activity timeline to iOS. Sorry, Android users, but to iOS. So there is a little bit, it's enabled by default on supported record types. So you just want to check out where it's enabled and where it's not enabled. There is some settings that you need to do to disable it if you want to disable it. Another quick thing, trying to get more information to folks' hands, report highlights. So the sort of summaries or the stuff that you're used to in the top row of a report when you run it on desktop are not going to be available in report highlights on mobile. Reporting on mobile, as you know, is not great. So I think this is a great step for them to try to get those reports to be a little more actionable and a little more usable on the mobile environment. And in the same token, forecasts are now finally available on the go. So forecasts were only available on iOS before. Now they're available for everybody. So if you were an Android user and you haven't been able to get forecasts yet, this is the release for you. And then finally, as always, you know, there's thousands, I don't know about thousands, hundreds. Let's see how big the release notes PDF is this time. What do we got? I'm going to guess 400. That's my guess. We'll see. It's taking a long time. So it's big. So there's a lot of stuff. So use your release in the box. Try to focus on the highlights. Always make sure that you're focusing on the stuff that's going to impact your end users immediately that you can't turn off. That's just going to be on when they walk in on Monday morning. And then, you know, make a plan for the rest of this stuff to roll it out. And, oh, last thing. I'm sorry. I know I said last thing like 3 times, but I have to point this out. Oops, it's in Sandbox. Sorry. There's now like a release, leave. Has anyone really spent any time in like the release update section and setup? It's great. And if you haven't, I highly recommend it. Let me show it real quick and then we'll do our raffle and be done. Oh, Dale's anxious. But I had to point this out. The new Salesforce Optimizer app is also awesome while I'm waiting for this to load. If you haven't played with that, the upgrade from the PDF to this is kind of mind-blowing. But there's now this release update section, which is great and really helps you focus on the stuff that matters to you. It kind of used to be critical updates, but now they're introducing more stuff that's not just critical updates. So check these out as well. Release updates is great to help make sure that you're kind of aware of what's happening. So look at that.
And what's really good about that is that you can actually turn it on in the sandbox and actually, you know, see if it breaks anything.
Yes. Yes. Great point. All right. We're a minute
Will
late.
it float?
Yeah, right. Let's draw something, Dale. Thanks
All right.
for everybody listening to me ramble about winter. It's very exciting.
No, it's all good stuff. Thank you, sir. So I have put the RAND statement on my Google sheet here, and our lucky winner is Cindy Brom.
Hey,
So Cindy, I will I'll send you an email with instructions, and you can coordinate with David on your free course. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome.
We'll see you all in 2 weeks, eh, Dale?
We will see you all in 2 weeks. The reg link is out there. I'll share resources and the recording and all of that as soon as I can, because I'm hopping onto a client call here in 2.5 minutes. As always, I just want to say I hope you all are doing really well, or as well as can be in this year. And then in the past, we've had more time to kind of like sit and kind of just share and whatever. And you know, like I said, I do have to jump here with my Zoom line, but I'm very serious when I say. I'm married to a therapist. I am seeing a therapist myself because life is just life. If you ever need a friendly voice, ear, anything on anything, find me, find Jeff, find anybody in this group. We're all humans just trying to take care of each other the best that we can. If we don't do that, we're failing as a society, in my opinion. So we are all here for each other. This is a very safe place for Salesforce and everything else you could possibly want. So I hope you all are doing well as can be. And I appreciate each and every one of you. So we'll see y'all in 2 weeks, and be as well as you can be. So thanks. Have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dale.
See ya.